Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, we welcome in a new month and a reopening of USDA and the rest of the federal government, at least for now. And more from leaders in Kansas agriculture. Charles Atkinson, a farmer from Great Bend, represents Kansas on the American Soybean Association board, and Kent Winter from Andale is the president of the Kansas Grain Sorghum. They'll both join us here in a few moments. Plus, features from Kansas Corn, Kansas Wheat, and the Kansas Farm Bureau, and our weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and Paragon Ag Advisors. The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leading in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online, kswheat.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future of Kansas corn. Online, kscorn.com. In agriculture news from agview.net, the American Royal Association has hired Glenn Allen Phillips as the organization's new president and chief executive officer. He comes to the Royal from the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo, where he spent the last 18 years as a senior director of ag program and events, as well as assistant executive director and chief strategy officer for all the competitive events there. He will start his new position with the Royal on April 15th. Also, Jackie McClaskey will lead the fundraising and development efforts for the association and its new facility in Wyandotte County. McClaskey, you recall, is the former Kansas Secretary of Agriculture, and she served the last 8 years as Assistant Secretary and Deputy Secretary, and then the Secretary at KDA. McClaskey started work for the Royal about 2 weeks ago. A senior USDA official says the amount of money being sent to farmers to help mitigate the financial damage from the trade war may not be as much as expected. USDA Undersecretary Bill Northey saying up to 2/3 of the Trump trade aid payments were made by early January. He said up to $5 billion of the $8 billion that they expect to make in mitigation payments has already gone out to farmers. Now, Northey didn't have any additional information as to why the figure didn't quite measure up to that initial $9.6 billion in payments that were estimated to go to producers of almonds, cotton, corn, dairy, pork, soybeans, sorghum, sweet cherries, and wheat. USDA, though, also aiding growers by purchasing $1.2 billion worth of food to give away, and then providing some $200 million in ag export groups for trade promotion work. And a new comprehensive life cycle assessment conducted by USDA's Ag Research Service and the Beef Checkoff found measures related to the impact of beef cattle in the U.S. often are overstated. The study involved feed and production-related data from more than 2,200 cattle producers in 7 regions of the country. Results indicated beef production, like feed requirements, responsible for only 3.3% of greenhouse gas emissions in the U.S. Now, that's dramatically less than commonly reported. Another key indicator identified was feed consumption. Cattle consume only 2.6 pounds of grain per pound of beef carcass weight. Now, this is comparable to the feed conversion efficiencies of pork and poultry. Additionally, the study found nearly 90% of the grain used to finish cattle is inedible by humans. Well, you can find more ag news anytime, agview.net or at kansasagreport.net. Stay with us. Our interviews with soybean and sorghum leaders when we return. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web, oldeseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. And Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. More at ksgrainsorghum.org. Joining us now is Charles Atkinson, who is a director for the American Soybean Association and a farmer from the Great Bend area. Charles, you're in Topeka. Normally you're somewhere advocating for the nation's soybean farmers.
Yeah, we're in Topeka this morning for the legislative breakfast and to meet some of our legislators and just remind them the importance of agriculture here in our state. We got a lot of our legislators that are in the city, and we want to remind them how important ag is to the state of Kansas.
So what kind of a message are you delivering?
Well, mainly as far as the ASA goes, as far as what we're doing is that we're still working on the tariff issue, still supporting the president on getting that resolved, hopefully get the 301 tariffs resolved so we can kind of get back to business. But at the same time letting them know that we are working very diligently with the administration to open some new markets.
Well, I know you spent a lot of time in D.C. this past year, and as we got up to the point to where we were with the government shutdown, but they get a farm bill done, so it was kind of that roller coaster of emotions of things maybe progressing, and now it's been slowed down a bit.
Yeah, it's been slowed down, and we worked real hard and got the farm bill passed, and now because of shutdown, we don't have anybody telling us what all's in the farm bill as far as how it's going to be administered. But as things move on, whether the government shut down or not, agriculture keeps moving.
One of the things we're hearing is our competitors down southern hemisphere may be running into some weather issues, which could bode well for U.S. soybean farmers.
Well, it could, and you never wish disaster on anybody, but if they are having some weather issues down there, but I do know we're getting a lot of product moving over to the EU right now, and we're just going to keep those markets, keep looking at what's going on, and try to see what we can get open.
So what's on the agenda for 2019? I mean, you talked about a couple of those things coming up. Obviously, the big commodity classic is coming pretty quickly, which everybody will gather. But as you look forward, what are some of the other priorities looking at 2019?
Well, some of the other priorities we're looking at right now, of course, not only just the tariffs and the markets, but we're also looking at getting more support on the biodiesel. A third of our oil that we produce with soybeans is going to biodiesel. That's adding anywhere between 75 cents to $1 per bushel. So we want to make sure we keep that process going, encourage our producers to be using biodiesel because it is a product that we can produce over and over again. It's a good renewable fuel. Do you think that the tax package that had some of those for biodiesel, is that a lost cause, or will that possibly come back once we get to a sense of normalcy, if there is such a thing in D.C.? Well, we hope it does. They're working real hard on it. We got real close to having it included, so I think it's still on the forefront of everybody's mind that we do need to get that tax package done, and we're going to strive on that just to try to produce as much cost, or not as cost, but as much as we can to increase the price of soybeans.
All right, Charles, so now the ASA is the advocacy line for soybean farmers. Folks want to join, be a part, get more engaged. How can they be a member?
Well, the quickest way to be a member is go to our website, soygrowers.com, or else we'd like for them to go to the Kansas site, Kansas Soybeans, and you can just click on there, or you can give any of the directors a call that's on the list, and we'll be glad to take care of you and help you out.
All right, very good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
Charles Atkinson from Great Bend, who is a director for the American Soybean Association, has joined us here at the Wake Up to Kansas Agriculture Breakfast. Stay with us, more in a moment. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. And AgView.net, covering news and views in the Beef Belt and Western Corn Belt. Reliable and relevant, AgView.net.
Imagine having someone help you pick the best corn hybrids for every field on your farm. Your Oldie representative can combine your data with his data to offer a field-by-field prescription. Contact Oldie Seed today at 877-692-4555.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Well, the Kansas legislature is already back in session, and that means one of the traditions is the Wake Up to Kansas Agriculture Breakfast. Kent Winter from Andale, the president of Kansas Sorghum, is joining us. And Kent, here we are again, an opportunity for the ag groups to get together and to really talk to the legislature the importance that agriculture is in the state.
It's always a fun event to come up for Ken. It's great to see the other commodities involved here. This is our chance to, you might say, press the flesh, get acquainted, get reacquainted with the state legislators here in Kansas. We've got a different administration taking hold here this session, so it'll be a good chance for us to get a feel for the situation and get an idea of the folks we need to be talking to.
Well, as you and I are talking, the federal government is shut down, which means causing a few hardships for farmers right now, a lot of uncertainty, because before long it's going to be spring and we're going to need to get that crop in the ground.
It's going to be go time before we know it. Right now, personally, the shutdown is not affecting me a whole lot. I would be very enthused to see the crop reports, the export inspections report come out to give us a better idea of where our grain is going and how much of it is going. So I'm missing that part of it already, and it's only going to get worse as we go further into spring.
So are you confident, though, because some of what we're hearing is kind of secondhand knowledge and other knowledge as far as what's going on. We don't know for sure if we're making progress with some of those countries that are vital to moving those commodities.
You're exactly right. The resources that we have are not able to tap into that. There may be other folks within the industry that are getting a sense for this, but the producers out here in the country are not picking up on that.
Okay. All right, Kent. So as we look, Farm Bill also was done. We're waiting for implementation, and while that's a national level, it comes right down to county, to your neighbor, to all those farmers needing to know exactly sure what's in it as it gets implemented.
I am grateful and thankful that Farm Bill was able to be pushed through and approved prior to the shutdown. I also want to express again my thanks to Senator Pat Roberts for the hard work that he put in on this, on getting it through. Now we have a sense of certainty. Now the ag lenders have somewhat of a sense of certainty going forward into this next cropping season, that we've got our safety nets and got our programs lined up, ready to go when we go to the field.
Let's talk about sorghum. 2018, maybe not a banner year all over the farm, but Kansas sorghum, it was a good crop.
It was a good crop. I'm seeing estimates of 86 bushels an acre in the state. We had over 2 million acres planted, and the bushel production in Kansas was over 200 million bushels. So again, Kansas led the whole country as the #1 sorghum producer in the nation.
To make sure folks realize that the #1 sorghum producer is the state of Kansas. Well, Kent, we appreciate you doing this, sorghum, being involved as we wake up to Kansas agriculture at the State House. So thanks.
Ken, it's always good to visit with you, and I appreciate your support.
Thanks. Kent Winter from Andale, the president of the Kansas Sorghum Producers. We'll have more coming up.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Hi, I'm Sue Schulte with Kansas Corn, and here's what's going on with the Kansas Corn Commission. In the area of ethanol, Kansas Corn, along with NCGA and our ethanol partners, have been working especially hard this year to expand the availability of E15 ethanol fuel and higher ethanol blends at fuel retailers. We have made significant progress in Kansas with 50 stations now offering E15 and higher blends of ethanol. Drivers can now find E15 fuel across the state, and there are several stations in the Wichita area. E15 is 15% ethanol fuel for use in passenger vehicles 2001 and newer, nearly all the cars on the road today. It is a higher octane, lower cost, and cleaner air option for drivers. Fuel retailers who have added E15 are also reporting a boost in their overall fuel sales. Kansas Corn worked with several partners on a USDA grant program to build E15 infrastructure. Looking beyond that program, the Kansas Corn Commission is committed to continuing to provide cost-sharing funding by creating the Flex Fuel Pump Grant Program. This program is funded with corn checkoff dollars through the Commission and is designed to provide incentives to Kansas fuel retailers to add E15 and higher ethanol blends as an option for their customers. This program will assist with the additional costs of upgrading to ethanol blender pumps and is designed to accelerate the use and availability of E15, E30, and E85 blends as clean-burning renewable fuel. Find out where you can find ethanol blends by visiting our website at kscorn.com.
Following several years of low farm prices, trade disruptions, and increasing international competition, passage of the 2018 Farm Bill comes at a crucial time for our farmers and ranchers. The Farm Bill renews the long-term investment in export market development programs. Productive U.S. wheat farmers fill American tables and still have about half their crop available to export markets every year. Farmers in states like Kansas support U.S. Wheat Associates with a portion of their state checkoff funding to build and maintain overseas demand, which allows U.S. Wheat to apply for program funding appropriated by Congress in the Farm Bill and administered by USDA's Foreign Agricultural Service. This public-private partnership, initiated in the 1950s, has earned a legacy of success that remains essential to a healthy farm and rural economy. The Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018, or Farm Bill, establishes the Agricultural Trade and Facilitation Program that provides $255 million per year to fund the Market Access Program, the Foreign Market Development Program, the Emerging Markets Program, and the Trade Assistance for Specialty Crops. The new law protects funding for these programs that had individual budgets of less than $50 million per year under previous farm bills. That is a very important amendment for wheat farmers because FMD funds directly support U.S. Wheat's ability to maintain bases of operation and local representatives to conduct trade service and technical support activities with buyers, flour millers, and wheat food processors. Another important change now allows qualified organizations like U.S. Wheat to use program funds to conduct market development activities in Cuba.
I'm George Pretz from Paola, Kansas, Miami County. I represent District 2, and today I'd like to talk about the Rails to Trail topic, which has been in Kansas Farm Bureau policy for the last 35 years. U.S. Congress passed a bill where this land would be rail banked, and the railroad company would let a trail group make it a recreation trail that you could walk on, bike on, ride horses on, and it happens to go through 5 counties, starting with Miami, Franklin, Osage, Lyon, Morris, and ending at Harrington in east central Kansas. And over the years it has developed problems for adjacent landowners, working with the trail groups that managed the area in the past. But just lately, this past session, they passed Senate Bill 331, which has turned over the management, made it a state park, and turned the management over to the Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism. And they are now responsible for the management of the day-to-day operations of the trail.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots organization representing the state's farmers and ranchers since 1919. KFB.org. Kansas Wheat Commission, leading in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online, kswheat.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future of Kansas corn. Online, kscorn.com.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
The producer-funded Kansas Wheat Innovation Center was built to get improved varieties into the hands of farmers faster. Kansas Wheat, farmers advancing their future through wheat genetics research.
All over the country, more and more communities are making the change to biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil. And the decision continues, improving the health and welfare for millions of Americans while adding billions to our national economy.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Agriculture information on your computer or mobile device. News and views on grains, livestock, policy, and opinions from newsmakers can be found by liking AgView on Facebook, and on Twitter, follow AgView News. A reliable and relevant source, agview.net.
5 advanced beef cattle care and health training sessions will be hosted by the Kansas Beef Council during February and March. These checkoff-funded sessions will provide beef producers with up-to-date standards and technologies to improve animal welfare and food safety. The trainings will be led by Kansas State University veterinarians Dan Thompson and A.J. Tarpoff. Dates and locations are February 4th at Anderson County Sales Company of Garnett, February 12th at the Pratt County Fairgrounds in Pratt, February 27 at Farmers and Ranchers Livestock Commission Company of Salina, March 14 at the Winfield Livestock Auction, and March 25th at Atchison County Auction Company of Atchison. All the meetings will take place at 6 p.m. Producers and veterinarians will receive beef quality assurance training and information relevant to the cow-calf, stocker, and feedlot segments. The information will include animal husbandry best management practices, downed animal care, and humane euthanasia training. In addition, stockmanship principles and low-stress cattle handling techniques will be reviewed. A necropsy will be performed at a few select locations as well. All producers and veterinarians who attend will earn BQA certification valid for 3 years. Each workshop is free of charge and includes a complimentary meal. Pre-registration 1 week or more prior to the event is requested by contacting the Kansas Beef Council in Topeka.
Good morning. I'm Eric Oosterhouse with Paragon Ag Advisors. The grain markets have spent most of the last few weeks trading a range as everyone waits to see the net result of our most recent meeting with the Chinese. Another important item is the fact that now the government has been reopened, at least for a few weeks, is that we'll finally receive some USDA reports regarding supply and demand, as well as exports. The monthly supply and demand report on February 8th will include information from the January USDA reports that was delayed. With all this information coming out, as well as the uncertainty over the result of our meeting with the Chinese, it's no wonder the markets are proceeding with caution. It's likely the biggest mover in the grain markets in the short run will be in the soybeans, depending on that outcome with the Chinese. If we come out of the meeting with little progress made, it's likely that soybeans trade back down at least to the bottom end of our recent range, if not retest our September lows. If we get good news, we likely see a knee-jerk reaction higher. The real question is whether that soybean market has the staying power to stay there, or do we trade back to our bearish factors of world and U.S. supply? It's likely there's a lot of sellers out there in the weeds on old crop beans, and that might also be another limiting factor. Corn seems to be in a comfortable range and feel that some upside is still warranted, especially if we see that higher move in beans. Basis has been steady to strong, showing good demand. Wheat continues to struggle along as the U.S. waits around to pick up some exports. And at least until we see some weather or some other factors to trade, it's going to be difficult for that to move ahead. Finally, on the upcoming USDA report, most believe we'll see a friendly acreage number on the wheat. As always, if you have any questions on these or any markets, call us today at 888-452-8751. Have a productive day.
Well, that's our show this week. Be social with us online, kansasagreport.net, or on Facebook and Twitter. Show is also available on podcast form from castbox.fm and search Kansas Ag Report. Thanks for watching. I'm Ken Rogers. We'll see you next week.